What's good, YouTube? It's your boy P2F and we're back here with another Inazuma 11 video. So today we're going to be talking about character stats. Not like in the last video. I know a few videos ago we went over the stats. Today we're going to be talking about specifically the base stats of each character, because you might know that Inazuma recently released the stats for every player in the game when they are at level 50. But a lot of players have noticed something, and when I was looking through them today to do a video, I was thinking of doing like top 5 strikers or something. I started to notice something very strange with the character stats. So I'm going to show you what I discovered, and then we're going to talk about it. So let's get straight into the video. So the first player I actually looked at was Goenji, and as we can see here, he's got 121 kick, 115 control, 105 technique, 88 pressure, 85 physical, 85 agility, and 93 intelligence when he's at level 50. As far as I'm aware, these are the best possible stats a forward can have. But it gets strange when we start to look at some of the other forwards. So as you can see now, I'm looking at Surrogate or Victor Blade, whatever you want to call him. And we might notice something here. The stats are exactly the same as Goenji's. So I'll put them both on screen next to each other right now to prove this point. Have a look at them. Okay, so looking at these, at first I was like, what the hell? They're absolutely identical. Every single stat is the same. But then I thought to myself, to be fair, it is Axel and Surrogate, right? They're the goats of the series, like they're both the big main fire striker for the Ryman team. So them having the same stats, not too crazy, I guess. I guess you could understand this and this could make sense. But now let's look at a few more characters. So here we've got Sanford and Gazelle. And do you guys notice anything? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, if you guessed they're exactly the same, you're correct. And who else are they both exactly the same as? The previous two we just looked at, Axel and Goenji. So my original theory that it was just the Ryman people, whatever, is now thrown in the dirt because we've got a forest striker and a wind striker both having exactly the same stats. So what does this mean? I didn't want to draw any conclusions too early, so I decided to look at some more players. So let's tell you guys what I found. Okay guys, so as you can see here, I've got Kevin and Max from the original Ryman team, right? And if we look at their stats, granted, the stats are different from the characters we looked at before, but you'll notice something. These two characters have the same stats as well. It just seems to be a lower version. So we've got characters like Goenji, Surrogate, Sanford, like he was in the Football Frontier International, and Gazelle, all having the same stats, which seems to be the highest you can possibly get. And then we have characters who maybe are a bit lower in standings, you know? I do think it's wild that Kevin and Max have the same kick though, because Kevin's a beast. So like Max is okay, but you know. So these two being the same is what started to make me think that like the stats are set for the characters. So what I mean by that is there's no per character stat distribution like there was in all the previous games, right? It seems, from what I can deduce, I will have a look at some other players as well. I'll put them on screen now. I'm not going to read out each one, but you can have a look at them. There seems to be either 5 or 6 different tiers of player in every position. And then, depending on the character, they'll be slotted in one of them, and all of them have identical stats. So, as you know, the Surrogate and the Axel are the highest band. And then the second highest band would be this one that Kevin and Max are in. Then there's a band where people have 114 kick. And a band where people have 110 kick. When I was looking at the 110 kick players, I did notice that these two had different stats other than kick. But when I did start looking through the database, I noticed that I looked at like 3 pages full of strikers, maybe 4 with 200 characters per page. And for the ones that had 110 kick, they all had the same stats as Arcade. I couldn't find any with the same stats as Willy. I assume there is some with the same stats as Willy, but maybe he just got different stats just because he's a Ryman player or something. I don't know. But for the most part, all the 110 characters, I'll show you from on screen here, have the same stats as Arcade too. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to talk about. I found another player who's an exception to the rule. It's the FFI International version of Fubiki. He does have 114 kick, but his stats are not the same as any other player with 114 kick. I looked through a couple hundred pages. Again, I could be wrong. There's like 5,000 characters. There's only a few thousand forwards though, so I'm pretty sure there's not another one with the same stats as Fubiki. This does make sense that some characters do slightly deviate from it, especially if they're more popular characters such as Fubiki, who obviously is a pretty hybrid player. So it would make sense for him to have like more all-around stats instead of heavy in kick. So that's one thing to consider. There is some people that don't fit the rule, but the rules that I've figured out, and I'm going to explain later in the video, do apply to most players. You just might find a few outliers here and there. I also found a band that I didn't mention, as you can see here. Some of them actually do have 104 kick, which is just absolutely terrible. So now we're going to talk about what I actually think about this and what does this mean for the future of the game. So what you can see on screen right now is just a little visual representation of the different tiers I found. So obviously this is just for strikers, but I am assuming that each different type also has their own bands with the same amount of tiers, and the stats are just set for them too. So in tier 1 we've got Goenji, right? So he has the best stats you can have as a forward. Surgi has it too, and a lot of other players. Then you've got the second tier players, Somioka. So these guys only have a little bit marginally worse stats than tier 1. So if you really love these characters in tier 2, then I do believe you will be able to use these in a competitive environment. But the problem just is that since all the players are in these bands, like there just is guaranteed best players, and it tends to be main series characters who are very relevant and very powerful. So obviously we've got like Goenji in that band, Surugi's brother. Then we also have people like Sanford, which is quite strange. I know he was a good player in the World Cup arc and stuff, but just in my eyes, I always feel like Somioka ended up having a better shot than him by the end of the series. But again, I might have anime bias, even though I have played the games. I feel like the anime does control my mind quite a lot when it comes to like my opinion on characters. Then we have like tier 3 with like Talisman, etc. These guys have like 114 kick. I did find Fubuki also has 114 kick, but as I said, he's in this separate 6th tier that I've created that's called Outliers. So the Outliers I found so far are Fubuki and Megane, because they don't fit into any of the tiers I have found. But I'm assuming there'll be a lot more of these players that are Outliers, but they'll be few and far between when you compare to the massive amount of players in the game. So Talisman has 114 kick, and the rest of his stats aren't the best. Tier 3 players are still okay, but I mean, if you can, I'd really recommend going for a tier 1 player. But tier 2s are pushing it, but tier 3 is kind of like, I don't know about that one. Then we have tier 4 and 5, like, unless you don't care about the competitive aspect of this game, you're not planning to play tournaments, and you just want to create your dream team, right? I would not recommend using tier 4 or 5 players in PvP game modes, just because their base stats are just so bad that you're just sacrificing power, you're losing more battles. Like, there's just so many little things that's going to add up to over the hundreds of games we're going to play. So just don't waste your time putting beans on legendary versions of tier 4 and 5 players, even 3 really. One thing I would recommend, guys, if you don't know what player a player is in, have a look back at this video, this is for forward specifically, and look at each of the bands. I put their stats on the screen earlier in the video. So when you are thinking about using a player, go ahead into Inazuma, type in the player, and just have a look which band they're in before you decide to commit all your beans to them, okay? Because we don't want to be wasting loads of time enhancing, getting to legendary, putting loads of beans on a player that is going to be relatively useless once everyone has fully optimized their teams a few months into the game. I'm sure people have already done it at this point, even though Inazuma's only been out a few days, but we're going to have a lot more meta teams being built now, so that's one thing you need to consider. Okay guys, so to end off the video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on this, because I haven't really talked about my thoughts so far. This has just been more like trying to show you guys what I've figured out and what I've found. I'm not saying I'm the one who discovered this. Obviously, other people have discovered this as well. I was just looking through loads of different players, and I just noticed that the stats are the same. Like, if you even on the first page of Forward, you'll notice Goenji and Sanford are really close together quite quickly. So I think most people who've been on Inazugo have noticed this, but some people might not. So, you know, keeping this video up for the sake of that. So what do I think? Personally, I'm a little bit disappointed with this, because if they were going to go this route, right, where they're not going to give us unique stats, they're just going to give a bunch of bands out, then I just feel like it kind of sucks, because like, you're pretty much forced to use the meta characters if you want to be competitively viable in the future. So like, if you wanted to use like recruit players or scout players, you know, the ones that aren't fully fleshed out, like, they're all generally gonna be in the lower bands. I don't know, sure, a few of them might be, or there might be a few random characters here and there who have pretty good stats compared to what you'd think they have, but for the most part, if a player's not important to the series, then they're gonna have pretty bad stats for the most part. So I don't really like this personally. The old games did have completely different distributions. Like, every character could have unique ones. There was some duplicates sometimes, but every character had like something to them. You know what I mean? They actually felt like a unique character. On this, especially with a lot of the scout characters, they've all just got copy and pasted stats and, dare I say, AI models. I'm pretty sure. I don't personally care about the use of AI that much. I use it sometimes myself to help with the editing process. But I don't know. It's a hard one to talk about really, because like, obviously in the OG games, you just had certain players who were just, for some reason, just absolutely insanely busted. And we don't really have that in this game, because there is no one player that's not a hero who stands out above the rest, right? They all seem to be pretty usable. The only thing that's really going to matter with the top tiers is which custom passives they're most likely to have, because that's going to be an important thing when building teams as well. So I don't think this is something level 5 is going to fix. Like, this is something that's pure built into the game. Like, the whole game works like this. They would not be going through and redoing everyone's stats. There's way too many players, so we're just not accept and bit. We're going to have to accept it and enjoy the game for what it is. It's not a game breaker. It doesn't ruin the game for me. It's just a slight bit disappointing knowing that there's no variance in the characters. Anyway, guys, that's been the video. Sorry for waffling so much at the end. I'll see you guys next time.